Hi, this is Dr. Swapna and I welcome you to your Learn Lab. If you are an IGNOU student looking for help in your studies, then you have reached the right place. Here, we have lecture videos on different core and elective subjects of important IGNOU courses. We aim to help you ace your exams. So hit subscribe to our channel and as you watch, make sure to like and share too. Come and join me on this beautiful learning journey. In this video, we are going to study quantitative methods of data collection, which is a topic from Unit 8 of Block 4 of BPCC-105, which is psychological research. What are we going to study? We'll be looking at quantitative survey method, sociometry, attitude scales or rating scales, and mechanical observation, all of which are different methods we use for collecting quantitative data while performing a research. Let's quickly see what is quantitative method of data collection. We have already studied what quantitative methods are and what qualitative methods are. And in case you haven't, I'll suggest you go back and watch the video. It is available in the playlist of BPCC 105. So we'll just quickly summarize what is quantitative data. So quantitative data is any data that can be counted and expressed in terms of numbers or quantity. Such data can be scored, analyzed and interpreted. So biggest advantage of having a quantitative data is that we can perform statistical analysis on that data. It gives us a better idea about the validity and reliability of the results. So quantitative data is used to measure attributes, behaviors and other responses given by research participants. We'll be studying 4 main methods which are used for collection of quantitative data. And the first one among those is quantitative survey method, then sociometry, attitude or rating scales, and finally mechanical observation. We go with the first method, which is quantitative survey method. So quantitative survey method is a research approach that uses structured questionnaires or surveys to collect numerical data from a large sample of individuals. So here basically we will have a set of questions which would be a part of the questionnaire, and the participants are asked to answer those questions, and in this way the researcher will be collecting numerical data from a large sample of individuals. This is used to quantify opinions, behaviors or characteristics of a population through statistical analysis of the collected data. As I already told you, the biggest advantage of having a quantitative data is that you can subject it to statistical analysis. The main tools used in quantitative survey method are sampling and questionnaire. We know what is sampling, right? We have already done a video on sampling, and we have studied all the different methods we use to conduct sampling. Basically, sampling is what? How to choose a particular sample from a larger population so that the research becomes more easier, cost effective and less time consuming, right? Let's revise quickly. Sample is a representation of the population selected for the study. So as we told, if the number of individuals in a population is large enough, which makes it difficult for the researcher to go and get responses from every single individual, so we select a smaller subset from that sample which we believe will represent the whole population truly, right? So this would be a true representation of the population which the researcher can select for the study. And what are sampling techniques? These are methods used to choose a sample from a population. The technique of sampling itself can act as an instrument in collecting data in a survey research. So while you are selecting a sample, so you will be asking a certain questions or collecting certain data to make sure that the people you are choosing as a sample actually are a true representation of the population. That method of selecting a sample from the population itself can give you a lot of information about the sample. So the sampling technique can itself be a method of obtaining quantitative data through survey method. Next is questionnaire. So questionnaire is a set of multiple choice questions using pen and paper in which the individuals need to select the most suitable from
from the given options. So this method allows data collection from a larger number of samples at a single time or at the same time. So questionnaire, simply you have a set of MCQs or multiple choice questions, you give it to the participants and participants have to just simply read the questions and choose the appropriate answer that is applicable for them. Right? So in this way, if you have a bunch of participants, it's easier for you to collect responses from all of those participants at the same time. And questionnaire can be administered in 3 ways. How are you going to give this questionnaire or give this test to the participants? It can be a mail survey, it can be group administered questionnaire, or it can be household drop-off survey. So let's look at mail survey. So in this method, you will be forwarding a soft copy of the questionnaire to a large number of respondents through email or even by postal mail and can get the data collected from them at the same time. Alright, so in mail survey method, you can create the questionnaire. If you are creating a soft copy, you can email it to them and ask them to fill it and send it back, which is a lot easier than using a postal mail because the participant may not take that pain to post it back to you, right? So email is a much faster and efficient option than the postal mail. And what are the merits of this method? It's relatively inexpensive, less time consuming and convenient method of getting responses, right? If you are using the email. What is the demerit? The questions which require on-the-spot response or detailed answer is difficult to be achieved through a mail survey. So if you are looking at an answer and then a question comes in your mind, why has this person chosen this option? Or how is this impacting? Those kind of detailed answers or doubts that may arise when you look at the responses may not be clarified at the same time, right? So that is a demerit of mail survey. The next is group administered questionnaire. So here the method is that the researcher invites a large number of respondents to be present at the same or stipulated time period as a group. So the researcher will be deciding upon a time and then intimating this time to a group of respondents and inviting them to come over to the designated location at that specified time. Alright. And then the respondents are asked to respond to a structured sequence of questions written in paper or questionnaire. Right? So you invite them, you make them sit, you make them comfortable, give them the questionnaire and ask them to respond to the questionnaire as truthfully as possible, right? And the merit of this method is that the respondents can clarify their doubt regarding any question that has been asked by the researcher on the spot, right? So the mail survey, the demerit was that if the researcher has any doubt on the responses, it will not be easily clarified. But at the same time, there also this demerit is that while reading at the question, if the respondent has any doubt, that will not be clarified. So then there may be, a lack of understanding about the question exactly as to what the researcher is trying to ask, and there might be a gap in what the respondent is understanding from the question. So here also, there would be the same problem. I mean, there will not be this problem here in group administered questionnaire, because if the respondent has any doubt while reading the questionnaire, he or she can directly clarify it from the researcher, right? And if the researcher is going through the responses at the same time, they can also get the responses clarified or may not, their choice, right? So that is group administered questionnaire. Then the third, we have household drop-off survey. So in this method, the researcher goes door to door to the respondents and personally hands over as well as collects the questionnaire from them. Alright, so you might have seen people coming into your house and asking, do you have 2 minutes? I'm just taking a survey, this kind of thing, right? So most of the time what happens is that, oh sorry, not now, or abhi ghar pe koi nahi hai. That's the most common responses that we give, or maybe just slam the door on their faces, right? So yeah, this is the biggest drawback of this method. So if the researcher is going door to door to the respondents and personally handing over the questionnaire and collecting it back, the researcher may not get the desired response, right? Then the merit is that it allows the respondent to answer the questions according to their convenience. Yeah. So the respondent can take their own sweet time and when they are finished, they can inform the researcher, so the researcher can come and collect the questionnaire, the completed set of questionnaire, right? So that is household drop-off survey. So let's look at some of the difficulties and issues of data collection through survey research. So the first would be issues on selecting the type of survey. The type of survey should be apt for the population under study, right? So the researcher should be aware of the kind of population that would be suitable for the study, both ways, right? So the researcher should know what kind of survey would be perfect for the population, also what kind of population is perfect for the study. For example, if I want to study the effect of a particular drug on anxiety, then I have to choose a population who has clinically, diagnosed anxiety, as well as who have taken the drug for a particular amount of time to show that result, right? So if I'm taking the population who simply has anxiety or has been prescribed that particular drug, that's not the right population for me, because I'm not sure, because they have prescribed the drug, when it was prescribed to them, have they actually taken the drug, or how many days they have taken the drug, whatever effect they are showing, is it because of the drug? All of these factors would decide whether the person or the individual is suitable to be a part of the sample, right? So it goes both way. The researcher should know what kind of survey is apt for a particular population, and also what kind of a population is apt for the survey. Also, the researcher should also be comfortable with the language of the selected population. So if you are using a generic like English language to perform a survey, you are preparing questionnaire in English and your target population is not able to understand English or read English, then that is going to be another huge problem, right? So the researcher should also be comfortable with the language which the chosen population is comfortable with. Finally, the researcher should also analyze the geographic restrictions and try to find out which method can be most feasible for the chosen population, right? So if you are going to invite all the people and then perform the survey, you need to know if there is free movement for that people. Like for example, if you are in a state like Manipur, where the movement is not free for people currently, then the survey may not go through well if you are going to invite people from different areas to a common place, right? Or if you want to go door to door also, if the free movement is not allowed, then that is going to be a difficulty for you, right? Again, there can be internet disruptions, like there may be internet blackouts. So you need to consider all of these things while choosing the type of survey that you want to conduct, right? Then the next is issue on survey instruments. The researcher should have full knowledge of the suitability of the questions that would be asked to the respondents. You cannot ask a question that might potentially offend the participant. So the question should be framed really carefully in a questionnaire, because in case you are sending it through email, the person is not in touch with you. There is a good chance that if the questions are not worded well, the reader may misinterpret it, and that can be a potential problem for the researcher, right? So it has to be taken very care of that the question should be suitable to be asked to the respondents or framed really well. So the researcher has to take care of the type of questions, clarity and specificity of the questions, and also length of the questions. If the question is too lengthy, the reader will not want to read it at all. It's a common mentality, or you can say psychology, that if I see a long question, I'll get tired of that question within first or one, two or three lines. So shorter the question, crisper the question, clearer the question, better for the researcher, also for the reader, right? Then there can be bias issues. Now, the researcher's bias and prejudice have a significant influence on the findings of the survey research, right? Which is very true. So the researcher should be fully aware of the repercussions of their bias. Their behavior should be socially desired ones, right? He or she should not lose track and also should avoid false reporting of the results. So the researcher should keep all the personal beliefs, bias and prejudices aside, before going on for something like a survey research. We have to be very neutral and very socially, what you say, pleasing to the people, so that they would want to even respond to your questions, right? If someone is being rude while asking the questions, then obviously not going to get a response, right? So this is something that has to be taken care of, about the bias and the behavior of the researcher. And fourth and finally, we have the administrative issues. This include cost. For example, if you are inviting people to a particular location at a particular time, why should they come? You have to give them some motivation to come, right? Which could be monetary, or which could be, a party environment, maybe free meals, or maybe TADA. TADA is like transport allowance and dinners allowance, okay? So that can come out to be really costly. So when people are coming, you have to provide them basic refreshments and basic amenities if the people are going to be there for an hour or so, right? So that can increase the cost for the researcher. Also, if the researcher is going door to door, that also is a costly affair, right? So administrative issues may include cost, mode of survey, feasibility of the area selected, and the required time period. Right? All of these has to be taken care of, or they can potentially become an issue while doing data collection through survey research. All right. So that was all about quantitative survey method. Next, we have the second main method of collection of quantitative data, that is sociometry. So sociometry is a method for measuring, analyzing, and studying the extent and nature of social relationships of an individual within a group. Or in short, you are going to study how a particular individual is going to behave in a group. What is the kind of social character or nature of the person, right? So this helps in finding interpersonal attractions and rejections. For example, like who is popular in the group, who is easily accepted in the group, or who is easily isolated or rejected in a group, right? And then you can also find out why this is so, like what is the reason that a particular individual is so popular among the group or being rejected in the group, right? So we'll be measuring, analyzing, and studying the extent of nature of an individual within a group. So this helps in understanding social behavior and relationships. Sociometric data are presented in the form of a sociogram, which shows attraction and repulsion within a group, with the help of which a researcher tries to find out the problems in his or her group. Again, this is collected in a numerical form, right? So sociometry is a way to find out how a person behaves in a social setting or in a group, okay? Sociometric data can be collected in three ways. The first way is called the nomination, in which means participants are given certain criteria on the basis of which they are asked to select the names of his or her peers against each criterion, which means I'll be giving a criteria to a participant and they have to nominate a person who actually suits best to that criteria. For example, I'm choosing a student from a group and then asking the student best friend. That is a criteria, and they have to nominate the best friend from that group, right? The person whom you would go at the time of a emergency. So that person would, the respondent would be choosing who the person would go to at any scene of emergency. So that shows reliability, right? And maybe then who's the worst secret keeper or the best secret keeper or the best student or the teacher's pet, right? Can come up with any of those labels or criteria, and the respondent has to nominate one person from the group who fits the criteria the best. This is called the nomination. So how number is going to come up? So maybe this test would be conducted on a whole group, and against best friend, if the same person is getting this many number of nominations, that is used as the numerical data, right? Like who is considered as what apt for which criteria, which, I mean, if there is a person A, like, and if 10 people are saying that they would go to this person in the scene of any emergency, then that number of people who have chosen this person becomes the data here. I hope you got the concept, right? Then secondly, we have social acceptance. This is the levels of social relationship are stated and the participant selects his or her sociometric choice. Right? So maybe acquaintance, that is one level of social relationship. Stranger is another level of social relationship. Casual friend or maybe best friend or confident, right? All of these are levels of social relationship. Okay. Again, here also the number of people choosing a particular person becomes the numerical data. Or how many people think that this person is a good confident, or they can open up to this person, or this person is a good listener, right? And so the final would be the who's who or guess who. The participant has to guess the name of the person on the basis of certain descriptions mentioned of related or known individuals, right? So this tells what are the characteristics of a person that is easily being identified by others in a social circle. Okay, I guess you have played Who's Who multiple times in your school days or even in colleges, right? So yeah, this is a fun game where you describe the qualities of a person and others have to guess who you are talking about. Okay, so these are the methods used for collecting numerical data from sociometry. Then the third method, we have attitude scales. So attitude scales are also called rating scales. So these are tools which are used to collect data by asking respondents to evaluate something or rate something along a defined range of options, often numerical or descriptive. So you might have seen those, rating scales when you go to shops where you have to rate the experience as best or worst. There might be a smiley at one end with yellow bright smile and then a red smiley, super angry smiley, or a green smiley, and you have to choose how you felt the response was in the shop, right? Maybe you have seen this in online shopping also. You have to rate the product with 5 stars. There will be 5 star and you have to choose the number of stars you would give for that particular product, right? All of these are part of attitude scales or rating scales, all right? So it provides a structured way to measure opinions, attitudes or behaviors, offering a standardized way to analyze and compare responses, all right? And they are of 3 types. They can be numerical rating scale, forced choice rating scale, or graphic rating scale. Let's look at the first one, which is the numerical rating scale. So here it's a measurement scale that uses numbers to allow participants to rate something, right? And commonly the scale ranges from 0 to 10. So you have to rate something from 0 to 10. This is simple and widely used tool in both clinical and research settings, right? So the researcher can create a rating scale where you will be giving certain criteria and asking the participants to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Where 0 being like the least and 10 being the most, right? So in case you are studying job satisfaction, 0 would be least satisfied, 10 would be most satisfied, right? So that is a numerical rating scale. What are the merits and demerits of numerical rating scale? These are very simple to construct, easy to use and convenient in data analysis. This is the merit or the advantage of numerical rating scale. What? That this is easy to construct, easy to use and convenient in data analysis. And what are the disadvantages or demerits? It's that they are less reliable and provide more superficial information than category systems. And they're also susceptible to varied biases and errors than other types of rating scales, right? So if you say 0 to 10, okay, if someone is giving 4, 5, 6 or 7, you exactly don't know what the person is even meaning, right? So this is going to be very superficial information. If it is 0, we know the person is not at all interested, right? And if it is 10, you know it's the most. In between, whatever the numbers are, they can be interpreted in multiple ways. So the way the respondent is interpreting it may not be the way the researcher is interpreting it, right? So 0 to 10 is going to be very subjective way of rating something. All right. And then we have the second type, which is forced choice rating scale. So forced choice rating scale, it presents two equally favorable statements about the observation of a participant. The observer is required to choose only one of the two statements to describe the observation. There is no possibility of a neutral or middle response. So an example would be, maybe you bought a new phone, okay, and then you are given a question like, okay, I am super happy with the phone, I hate the phone, right? So you have to choose either one of them. You have no option to choose the middle one, like, yeah, it's okay, I don't know, or maybe I need to wait. No, nothing. Either you love it or you hate it. There is no gray area in between us. Either it's totally white or totally black, right? So this kind of rating scale is called a forced choice rating scale, where the participant is forced to make a choice, clear choice. There is no option of a middle response or or a vague response here. Okay, so this is forced choice rating scale. And finally, we have the graphic rating scale. Okay, so here the rating scale is in the form of a straight line representing a thermometer and presented either horizontally or vertically. The observer is required to make a judgment which frequently reflects either positively or negatively on the observation of the participant. Okay, so here also the response or the question is in the form of a graph, okay, where you will have multiple points. You can see it here, right? And the observer here has to make a judgment which would reflect what the participant has thought of the whole thing, right? So you can see this here. This is one kind of a graphic rating scale where 0 is never used all the time. Okay, here it's not 1 to 10, it's 0 to 100, and between each interval there is a gap of 10 units, right? There is a smiley face descriptors also, if you can see here. All of these are examples of graphic rating scale. All right, so basically here, how is it going to be? The rating is in the form of a rating has to be done on a graph, right, or a straight line. This could be represented horizontally or even vertically this way. All right, so that's graphic rating scale. Let's look at the shortcomings of the rating scale, or what are the disadvantages of using a rating scale. The first one is called halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where a positive impression in one area influences the perceptions in another unrelated area. Okay, this means if you like one aspect of something, like a person, a product or company, you are more likely to have a positive bias towards everything else about it, even if there is no logical reason for that connection. So this can lead to inaccurate judgment. For example, maybe you have to choose a person to the student council. Okay, now you know the person, you have seen that the person is fun and the person talks nicely to you, so you like the person, right? Just because the person is nice and talks well doesn't mean the person can be a good leader, right? But just because you like that person, you end up nominating that person for the post of a student council president, right? This is called halo effect, which means if I like something for one characteristic, I'll assume that the person or that thing is going to be good at other things also, which may not be true. All right, so this is called halo effect. Second is error of leniency. This is also a very common thing. Okay, so this is a tendency on the part of an observer to overestimate or underestimate the desirable qualities of the observed person, or even when he or she likes or dislikes him or her for certain reasons. Okay, so this means if I don't like someone, I am going to underestimate the person for every other qualities that person actually might have. Okay, or if I like a person, I am going to overestimate the person, that just because I'm liking the person. Okay, so this is called error of leniency. We are always going to be lenient towards someone we prefer or like. All right, that is error of leniency. It is similar to halo effect only, but here it's that we are going to not care about the negative characters or negative features of an individual just because we like them. All right. Next we have error of central tendency. This means it takes place when the observer is unable to assign extreme ratings and so tends to provide moderate ratings to the observed participant or subject. This means nobody is ever going to choose yes or no. They'll be choosing something like maybe or I don't know. Central tendency means among the middle. Okay, so if this is the rating scale or something, the person would always be choosing in this range. The person doesn't want to choose either from this side. This is called error of central tendency, which means if someone doesn't know about what they are being asked about or they are not interested in responding, they may choose a neutral response which is not going to help researcher anyway, right? So this kind of neutral response is called error of central tendency. Then finally, we have logical rating error. This is a tendency on the part of the observer to assign ratings to the observed for qualities which appear logically related in his or her own mind, which may not be true otherwise. Okay, so there is also, as I gave you an example of, electing a student council president, right? So just because the person is talking nice, you believe that the person will be able to solve all your problems, right? That may not be true. That is a logic you are going to apply in your own head. Okay, this person talks to me nicely, this person talks to everyone nicely, so this person may be a good listener and they might be able to solve all our problems, right? So you are giving that logic in your head which may not be actually true, right? So this is logical rating error, where the observer is going to assign ratings to the observed for qualities which appear logically related in his or her own mind, which may not be actually true otherwise. All right, so that is shortcomings of the rating scale. And lastly, we have mechanical observation. Here, as the name suggests, the observation is conducted by mechanical devices rather than human beings, right? The mechanical observation involves use of videotape, traffic counters, and other machines for recording behavior. The researchers also tend to use motion picture camera and time-lapse photography in some unusual observation studies. Alright, so basically in mechanical observation, the observation is not being conducted directly by the researcher, but the researcher would be employing other devices like recording devices, traffic counters, or any other recording machine. Besides these, you might have also seen optical scanners and barcodes, which are also used in large warehouses and transportation companies to track their inventory and shipments. All right. Another famous example of mechanical observation is, a study that was done by AC Nielsen Television Index. So this was done in US a long time back. So basically this company, they wanted to know the ratings of different TV shows. Okay, how popular a TV show was among the American population. So what they did is they chose 2000 households and asked them if they are comfortable with having these mechanical observation devices, which is they call people meter, right? And if the people were comfortable having this fitted in their homes, they went ahead and installed this device in each of their houses. So what happens is that this device tracks when the television is switched on, how long the television is switched on at a home, and what are the shows that are being watched, and how long a show is being watched. Like are they completing the show or leaving it in the middle? And if they are watching it yet again, I mean, they are re-watching the whole thing, so this kind of an observation, mechanical observation being made, help the people to help the, people in the sense, the, AC Nielsen people to understand what kind of shows were being popular among the US population and how much was their average watch time for the TV, right? So this was something that was actually done in US, and this is an example of the mechanical observation for collecting numerical data. All right, so that was all about the methods for collecting quantitative data, right? We have seen 4 main techniques. Let's now go ahead and look at the previous year questions. So the first question came in June 2023. It was explain the various quantitative methods of data collection. That was for 10 marks. Alright. Then in June 2022, there was a 5 marks part question which said write short notes on the following in about 150 words each. And the question was on sociometry. Then the same question as the first one repeated again in December 2021. Explain quantitative methods of data collection. Again, 10 marks, right? So this is kind of an optional question. They can either ask about qualitative methods or quantitative methods, or maybe any of these methods as 5 marks questions. All right. So I hope you have understood this unit. It basically discusses about the various methods of data collection in both qualitative and quantitative research.
Thank you all for learning with me. If you found the video helpful, make sure you let me know by hitting the like button. Make sure you share the video with your friends too. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the new videos. You can reach me by simply dropping a comment. See you in the next one. Till then, happy learning.